Hey, warriors! Welcome
Hi.
back to another episode of The Invisible Diaries. We are your hosts. I'm Misty Blue Day,
I'm Amber Traven.
and today we're discussing the spoon theory and how to talk to loved ones about your invisible illness. As always, a quick disclaimer any information discussed in this podcast is strictly our opinion and for informational purposes only.
Yes, it is not meant as medical advice and should not be taken that way. We know battling chronic illness can be hard, and if you find yourself or someone you love in crisis and need someone to talk to, you can call the National Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1 800 273 8255, which provides free and confidential support for people in distress 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Again, that number is 1 800 273 8255. Now let's get started.
Yay! All
Yay!
right. So why don't you go ahead and start off with the Spoonie theory?
Yeah, so
You just read yesterday, so you go for
yeah.
it.
Yeah, so obviously a lot of people in this community that suffer from autoimmune disease and illness and chronic illness already are pretty familiar with spoon theory. But kind of our goal with this podcast and recording and stuff is to not only use it as a way to help other spoonies, but also as a way to um, help communicate to medical professionals, to friends and family, to coworkers, somebody that you can refer to and be like, hey, you want to know what it is? Here it is. Like, this is spoon theory. So anyway, spoon theory, like I said, most people are familiar with, but it was coined by Christine Miserandino, and I hope I said that right. I hate butchering someone's name. Back in 2003, she was at a diner with a friend of hers, and basically they were discussing, her illness. She suffers from lupus, and her friend was asking what it was like to have lupus, what that felt like. And she grabbed some spoons that were off tables around her to kind of use them as a visual aid and laid 12 of them out, and then asked her friend basically to say, just start naming some of the things that you do on a daily basis, like starting with getting up out of bed and brushing your teeth and then taking a shower. And as she was naming these things, she gradually started taking spoons away. And she kind of used them as a way to explain that each activity that someone with chronic illness or an autoimmune disease does requires a certain amount of energy. And you only get a set amount of energy at the beginning of the day. So you have to be really careful about what you choose to spend your energy on. So a lot of times it means, maybe not taking a shower one day because you have something else later that afternoon, and being really careful with how you use them. And then also, if you have a really large day with full of a lot of activities, you end up borrowing from the next day. So what that
A
means for
lot
a
of us
lot of
are in Spoonie debt.
yeah, what that means for a lot of us, especially those that suffer from chronic illness and autoimmune disease, we don't sleep well anyway. So you're not really able to replenish that energy when you sleep because your sleep is not normal for a lot of us. So you're borrowing from the next day, and then you're already in deficit and you're not able to kind of rejuvenate that energy. So it ends up kind of having a compound effect. And if you're always constantly borrowing from the next day, you're pretty much running on empty fumes. So it was just a really great way to explain to people, like, look, if you start out the day with 12 spoons, you got to be really careful. Like, maybe I can't go hang out with friends for coffee today because I've got,
Right.
a dinner to go to later, or, you just
And
have to be really careful.
that I think is a really important thing to point out too, especially for like friends and family who don't quite understand. We cancel a lot. We are flaky, and I know it's super frustrating because you'll see someone out and about, and then all of a sudden they cancel on you last minute. But sometimes what happens is you run out of spoons that day. There's been times where I've had plans. I'm going to do this tonight, and I get to the point where I'm exhausted. I hit a wall. There's no way I'm going to make it out. And,
Right.
it can definitely make plans, a little unstable. And it is sometimes hard to maintain friendships with healthy people because, they, it, maybe they're insulted by the fact that you flaked on them
Cancel
so
a
many
lot.
times and cancel all the time.
Huh.
Even family members too, and just choosing, am I feeling well enough? Do I have enough energy to show up to this family function this time? And maybe you have. I mean, there's been times where I've shown up to
Right.
family functions and I just like literally drag myself out, and it's hard because I feel like I'm there, and to me that's like a big deal, but because I'm not smiling, I'm not like
Right.
actively like looking happy and like
Partying.
enjoying my time.
Right.
I'm grateful and glad to be there with family or friends or whatever events I'm talking about, but it can definitely come off sometimes like you're kind of like the resting bitch face, like
Right.
and we can sometimes be a little short fused or just irritable, and that kind of makes it hard too when we
As
do
would
show up.
anyone be that it
Right.
doesn't feel well when you don't feel good or you're not, you're not wanting to like bounce around. So, and I think the other thing really important to point out is that a lot of us also, when we do have a good day, so let's say we had a really good night's rest and it's, the unicorn in Spoonie world. So you had a really great night's rest and then you wake up the next day and you're like, I'm conquering everything on my to-do list and I'm getting it all done. And then you wind up, I mean, at least for me, I'm in bed for a week because I think because we feel so much guilt and shame for all of the things we can't do on a daily basis, that when we have a good day, we try to do too much. And then we end
Yeah.
up paying for it because we carry that shame and that guilt that like we're supposed to be doing something, or we shouldn't be, in bed when we've got laundry to do and dishes in the sink. And, I
Yeah.
think we overcompensate and then a lot of times it makes us sicker. So,
My husband will get mad at me sometimes because I'll be working on a project like cleaning the pantry or whatever, and
right.
he'll be like, "Stop it! You're gonna use all your like." He wants me to stop
Yeah.
and relax, and I'm just like, "We'll like argue." And I'm like, "Listen, I have the energy to do it, and I want to do it. Like, just
Right.
let me
Right.
roll with this." Because it's not often that I feel like I can clean.
Right. When
So
I catch myself, like, I mean, it makes me really sad sometimes because I'm like, I feel, my husband works all day and then he comes home, and if I'm in bed with, not feeling well, and then he cooks dinner, and then I don't know if it's just because I was raised in a traditional family where women do a lot of that. So it's such an old school
right,
way of thinking. I mean, he never says anything. He's amazing, but it's like, it's just my internal dialogue that's like, I'm not doing enough. It's not right. I should be up and I should be, even though, I stand
yeah.
up and pass out or something. Yeah.
No, I have a hard time with the same thing, too. It's like my husband just came home from work and he works, like out in the sun, very physical. And it's like there's some days where I just was in bed all day and just not feeling
Right.
well, and I'm just like it's hard for me to, just sit there and when I'm not feeling well and when I know he's worked so hard.
Well, the
Definitely the
other
guilt.
the other thing I think is hard too is that it's like, okay, so now you have a good day. Do you spend it cleaning or do you spend it like quality time with your friends and family? So I think
Right.
that's the other thing too, where it's like if you have a really good feel good day sprinkled in some bad days, I know I struggle with finding balance. Like, do I just say, forget it, my house will get cleaned another day and, I can figure out what to do for
Oh,
laundry? Or do I
can't
go
clean
out
my
to
house right
the
now.
beach?
Yeah.
I think, I mean,
Um,
I don't know if it's just traditional, way of thinking or if it's, you know, guilt associated with chronic illness. I don't know.
I think a little bit of both. I think also just, being women, there's that stigma, of how we should be a mom and how we should be a wife. And
Do it all
yeah,
with a
that
smile.
definitely plays a role, I think. I mean, anyone, even as a man, the man, they're going to feel like they need to have this role too,
Right.
it's definitely going to be the stigma that, our society in general, um, basically is built on. So that makes it tough. And that's
That's
why we're
true.
here really too, is to try to break this stigma and to
Right.
open other people's eyes, so that way they can understand that like this is a reality for some people. One of
Absolutely.
the things I like to kind of use to describe a day in the life of being a spoonie is the wheel of misfortune.
Yep.
So when you wake up, you spin the wheel of misfortune, and maybe once in a while you get to land on, you're gonna have a good day.
Right.
But usually it's something strange and unusual, or you know, like today I woke up and I was having shoulder pain. That's why you keep seeing me go like this. I like sprained it or something
Right.
in my sleep, which is that's a new
Easy to
one.
do with EDS, right?
Yeah, that's a new one. But yeah, I mean, last night even I I don't. It's the most bizarre feeling, but I stop breathing in my sleep sometimes. I breathe really shallow, and I think that's another thing with EDS is that like with the loose ligaments,
The sleep
sometimes
apnea.
it'll close.
Right.
Um, but it wasn't quite like that. It felt like this sounds really crazy. It felt like every cell in my body was just like dying. Like
Right. Like shriveled.
I felt like just to breathe, and it was like the life was getting sucked out of me. I don't know how to explain
Right.
it. So I fell asleep having those moments where
Right.
and eventually I fell asleep and I stayed asleep. And that's
Right.
usually how it is. But going to sleep initially for me is really hard because honestly, going to sleep is scary to me. It always has been. And since I got my pacemaker, it's not quite as scary, but I still, like last night, I had a really intense palpitation. So,
Right.
in the past, I get palpitations like I'm so used to it, no big deal. But these are like really different.
Right.
Um, and they're really intense. Like I'll get it and I'll have like the tingling and clamminess in my hands, and it almost like is like a PTSD thing too, because I'm
Right.
so scared of that staying in that palpitation and to an arrhythmia, because I've had that
Absolutely.
often. I've had to call 911, and
Right.
so going to sleep is definitely tough for me
Hmm.
and almost scary sometimes, and definitely can be difficult. So when I wake up, I'm definitely not feeling rested. I'm usually really sore. Um, my muscles spasm all night as I'm going to sleep.
Hmm.
So I feel like I'm sore. Like I just did
Feel like you worked out in
CrossFit.
your sleep. Yeah.
And I know you deal with that too. So, in the morning, it's not like most of us don't wake up feeling like rested with
Feel
the
so
birds
rested. Yeah.
chirping.
Right.
I mean,
I
how
know
about you?
my husband and I kind of joke, we call it the pain drain. So it's
Oh,
like rather
wow.
than recharging your batteries at night, because your body is still going through all of these things and your brain's still interpreting all of that. So even though you're not conscious, there's still, all of that autonomic nervous system still kicked in. It's still making sure your heart beats, still making sure you're breathing. But when you have dysautonomia, like we both do, it's scary because things aren't working quite right. And so signals get crossed, and
Oh, yeah.
for me, like, I get fasciculations. They just are all the time now. And so I'm the same way. I wake up and I'm like, I feel like somebody just like rolled me around in a rock tumbler. Like I'm just I'm like, I didn't feel that. I didn't feel that. And so rather than like waking up and being like, I'm gonna conquer everything today, I'm like feeling like I'm hungover and I didn't even
Oh,
like I
yeah,
missed
the
the party.
hangover. Yes,
I'm
without the
like,
tequila. Um,
exactly. I'm just like, ugh.
and another thing too is, well, we do have good days and we have bad days. But I think what also makes it hard for our loved ones, friends, family, to understand is that you're not going to see us on our bad day. I mean, I
Right.
know like I've had a rough week, so like posting on social media, like for me hasn't happened.
Right.
I did post a picture of my cat because I'm like, I'm not going to be in the picture right now, or maybe a couple days will go by, and I'll post like an old picture of like a flower or a, smoothie or something, because I'm just trying to be like, I'm still here.
Right.
But,
Right.
you know, so a lot of what we do show is also behind a mask. It's
Hmm.
filtered.
Yep. Best
You're
foot
you're gonna
forward.
right. You're gonna see, and just like everybody else, I know a lot of people in general, they're down on themselves about, even just healthy people, because they feel like, you know they're not the best mom or best whatever, because they're comparing their life to their reality to someone else's
Right.
highlight.
Right.
you know?
Which
So I
is what
mean,
I love. I've seen the movement on social media, especially in this community, where they're like,
mhm,
look, like we're not just we're posting from bed today and you're gonna see like this
right.
is me and this is also me. Like this is me in bed, no makeup, and I look like I have the flu. And then this is me, like I had a good
Yeah,
day and I did my hair and makeup. But they're both me and they're both like dualities that I live with as
right.
me. So I think it's
And
really important to share those things too. Like if you have the energy to be like, here's a quick selfie from bed, like I look like, poo, but
I will work on the
yeah,
strength for that. I'm not there yet.
girl, I feel you because it's like, the last thing
I
I
look
want
in
to
the
do is
mirror and
like,
just like, oh my God, like
well,
I
for
gotta
me,
cover
it's,
up those circles.
and for me, it's stimulation. A lot of times when I'm that much in a flare, even just the stimulation of like looking at my phone to like have to like concentrate is just really difficult. Like,
Right.
I just don't have, I mean, like even like sensation, like all of that heightened sensation stuff is, the blanket feels wrong or my clothes are scratchy
Yeah.
or it's just like I just want out of my skin.
Yeah. I mean, I'm trying to work more on documenting that side because I really do want to share that aspect of my life. I've even told my
Right.
husband, I'm like, when I'm telling you to call like 911 or like you got to go
Right.
to, I'm
Right.
like, freaking record it. And he's like, no, that's the last. I'm
Yeah.
like, but I want people to see because they don't understand and they don't see. And, another thing I want to bring up too is I've seen a couple blog posts like from the Mighty and a couple other people shared lately of people making comments about the attention, bringing attention, and that they're seeking attention.
Right.
A lot of people who don't understand. For example, there's actually like a community of people who hate people like us who
Right.
hate Spoonies and invisible
Right.
illness warriors because they just think of them as they're seeking
Lazy.
attention and they're faking. And I
Right.
mean, it's disgusting. I fell down that rabbit hole when Jackie passed
Right.
away because I was trying to find
Chronically.
out like what happened. And I mean, I saw these like crazy horrible websites, but my
But
point
that's
in that
why
is,
that's our fuel.
yeah, my point in that is that, we're not trying to get attention in
Right.
the way that you think we're trying to get attention. I want to get attention with this because I am sick and tired of doctors dismissing me.
Hmm.
I am 34, almost 35 years old, and it took my
Hmm.
entire life to get a diagnosis. I just got a diagnosis like what in the last year or two. And that
Right.
was also with me, begging and doing the research and begging for the tests. And, keep in mind, I've also had open heart surgery before, cardiac ablations, a pacemaker, multiple surgeries. I actually counted
But you don't look sick.
recently 50 ER visits since just January 5th of 2017
That's
as of,
crazy.
Monday. um, so my point in that is that nobody ever, took me seriously despite my health issues. Nobody wanted to figure out what was going on, and that's
Right.
disgusting to me. Like
Absolutely.
doctors take an oath to do no harm, but they've done harm to me. That's
Right.
medical negligence. I
Right.
could have been properly taking care of myself a long time ago. I never knew that I was supposed to stay overly hydrated and have a high salt diet, and
Right.
that I needed to avoid these foods and these chemicals and all of these things. And I, you know, killed myself, in the long run by not treating myself properly because nobody helped me. And so that's
Right.
why, for me, that's why I'm bringing attention. Yeah, I want attention because I don't want this to ever happen to anybody ever again. I wouldn't wish this on anybody. So,
Absolutely. And I
oh,
think
it gets me heated.
the the only way that we make a change is to be the change. So,
Right.
we're bringing, we both are huge advocates. We're also really passionate about empowering other men and women to be their own advocate because, we know there's a lot of things wrong with our healthcare system, at least in the US. I mean, we can't speak from other countries, but here, the model's broken. And we're not here to like just blame physicians. We're not here, that it's not about blaming, it's about fixing the problem.
Right.
And the only way we fix it is if we talk about it. We start making these things that are very, what people still consider rare, that are now not rare anymore because things have changed. Autoimmune disease, chronic illness, these things are these things are like running rampant, and I'm sure there's many more undiagnosed because the diagnosis period is so long. So
Absolutely. I
and
get
you know, and
messages all the time. Honestly, on a daily basis. Last night, I was messaging two people. I was messaging someone this morning. People reach out to me and they ask me for advice, which is why
right,
we're starting this, is because we, other episodes in the future, we're going to try to teach people how to advocate for themselves.
absolutely,
All the proper things to do in order to help get a diagnosis and to speak up for themselves and find their voice.
absolutely.
But and
And to
that's
help
why.
empower the doctors to know what to look for, so that
Right,
they're not immediately looking at, you know, giving you a sedative instead of, an
right.
actual pain medication, or, not taking time with you. Because that's the other thing, is
Mhm.
that I think, and I can only imagine how many more men, because, of all of the things that they carry as males, go
Right.
undiagnosed, because, you know,
Absolutely.
our fellas can't be forgotten either.
Exactly. Well, and I have a friend I talked to the other day. She actually doesn't process Tylenol. It does nothing for her.
Mhm.
And so she's had a lot of pain issues in the past. She's a lot of health issues.
Right,
And, her doctor didn't believe her that it wasn't
right,
working. And so, of course, what do? They accuse you of being a junkie, or lying, or hysteria.
right.
Um, uh, Something which I want to eventually share her story too, but something happened to where he decided to genetically test her to find out how she processes medications.
Right.
And he found out he said, I am so sorry that you were going through all that pain and I didn't listen to you. And because
Mm,
of that, he now orders that for all of his patients, so that way they can get the proper pain management.
right.
So it's little things like that. Did this one girl's story change this doctor's way, and how he treats his patients from this point on, and now all of these people seeing
Absolutely.
him are going to get even
So,
better care.
exactly. And I think
And
that, no, go
go
ahead.
ahead.
No, I mean, because, going back to, spoon theory, and going back to how to talk, to friends and family and loved ones and coworkers, Misty and I were kind of chatting before we got on, and talking about the shame that everyone carries with not feeling well, whether it's mental illness, chronic illness, autoimmune disease, disability, whatever it may be. There's so much shame that's carried around, that I think that shame keeps us from talking, and
Yes.
keeps us, when you're already running low on energy, the last thing that you feel like you can do is fight. But strength in numbers, and, we're here to make some noise, as far as, like, it
Oh
can't
wow,
be
yeah.
ignored. The problem's too big, and we shouldn't have to wear something like a t-shirt, we were just talking, that says, I have a disability, to be believed. It shouldn't work that way. Most people are genuine. Most people aren't looking for, you know handouts. I mean, we just have forgotten how to be human beings and have empathy for one another, and if someone says
Yes.
they don't feel good, they don't feel good.
And it's so true. And that's why, again, why we're here and why we're trying to build a community. I was talking to someone on Instagram recently. She's from France. And she was saying how, especially there, mental health has a huge stigma, and even people who are with illnesses, they're looked at as weak. And so she just started talking about it, and she's like, you won't see many people from France talking about it,
Right.
because of that reason. And so, I just want to support her, and I want to support other people, because how horrible of a life is that if we have to wear a mask and say,
A shame
yes, I'm
secret.
fine, and autopilot, because we want everyone else to feel comfortable, because
Right.
there wouldn't be comfortable knowing we're in discomfort, and we have
But,
to fake it.
well, like you and I were just talking about, though, before we got on, you know you don't ever look at someone that says, I have cancer, and say, why? You look fine. Like, because Misty and I were talking about, like, you can't see cancer on someone. You can see the effects of cancer, you can see the effects of chemo, but you cannot look at someone and be like, yes, you do have cancer, or no, you don't. And to ask someone to validate that is insane. So why would you do that to someone with mental, health issues, or with, something else that's not physically manifesting in a way that you think? I mean,
Right.
it's
And it shouldn't be
crazy to
seen as
me.
a weakness either. The people shouldn't be concerned that that's going to make them look weak either.
Absolutely.
You know, we didn't choose to have these cards dealt to us, you know, and
No.
we're making the best of it with what we can. But we just want to be treated equally. We want healthcare equality.
Yeah.
And you know, it's not fair that because like, oh, you know, you've got too many health issues, girl, so we're just not gonna
Right.
treat you because of your
Or my
condition.
favorite, you're too young to have all these problems. Why are you here? Because I like hanging out in doctors' offices. It's my favorite.
Oh yeah.
Because I have nowhere else I could be other than here in a doctor's office.
Exactly. So we posted on Instagram about what does it mean to be a spoonie. We had a couple people comment, and Miranda, her comment said, it means that on fun days and on busy days, you have to eat your soup with a fork because there are no spoons left.
Girl,
Maybe
amen to that.
days later, you'll be lucky to find a spoon. It sure is a daily challenge. Positive thinking helps me a lot. So, which
Yep.
is a really
Agree with
cool,
Miranda.
yeah. Which makes, I love how she put it in that perspective, because it's like it does make things a little more difficult and challenging, you know, and we do have to get creative in how
Right.
we go about our day sometimes.
Well, and I think that that's the other important part about leaning on each other in this community, is because we all know on our down days, on our dark days, it's hard. Like, they're dark. They're very, very dark. And so it's why it's, you know, Misty and I are both very passionate about making sure that we mention the resources like the suicide prevention line. I mean, like, talk about it, talk to somebody that you trust, talk to somebody that has earned the right to hear your story, you know? I mean, like, if we don't talk about it, then nothing changes. But if we all start talking about it, it becomes the new normal. And, you know, that's how we create the biggest change.
Right. And you know, the other issue too is, you know, the word hysteria.
Oh, my favorite.
Just, you know, that's, so back in the day, that's what women would get diagnosed with. They were emotional, they're hysterical.
Yeah.
And you know, and the horrible thing is that has not changed today. They have just
Right.
renamed that, repackaged that title. So I mean, you're having, you know, a whole lifetime, because we're talking to the present day of people, not just women, but people in general, who they have these serious health issues, and because doctors haven't quite understood it yet, or you know, gotten that deep into whatever specialty, you know, the unknown is packaged and labeled with hysteria, which is crazy to me, because our bodies
Right.
are very complex. Our bodies are, I mean, the biomolecular way that we function, I mean,
Right.
everybody's different. It's not just so black and white, one size fits all. You know, it's not like, you know, oh, okay, this is how you feel today, yes
Right.
or
Check
no, and
these
let's go down,
boxes.
you know, okay, this is what you have. Like, it doesn't
Right.
work out that way.
Yeah, it doesn't fit so pretty in a like
Even
nice
blood
little
work
box.
sometimes isn't going to always fit perfectly. And
Right.
so the crazy part to me is that people aren't listened to, and that they're just going to say, shh, shh, nope, I'm
Right.
not going to listen to you. You're just crazy. It's in your head. It's
Right.
hysteria. Are you stressed?
Right.
You know, and then people are going, um, undiagnosed, which in my opinion is medical negligence, you know, and 1 in 20 people are misdiagnosed, which
Right.
is an insane number to me. So
Right.
I think another thing that we're wanting to do too is to just change that statistic, change the stigma, and just say, hey, you know what? Do better. Do better
Right.
for your patients. Like,
Yeah.
there's no reason that people should spend their entire lifetime not getting proper
There's no
diagnosis.
reason it should take 7 to 10 years to get an accurate diagnosis. And it's
Exactly.
I think at this point, because autoimmune disease presents itself so different, like, I mean, obviously, I had watched an episode on YouTube of Chronically Jackie and I forget the other girl. They both have hypermobility EDS, and they were talking about how different it presents in both of them. And I think that's the tricky
Oh,
thing
for
about
sure.
autoimmune disease in general is that, even with dysautonomia, I mean, like, not everybody has all of the things. And so some
But you're
people,
also
and
going to
then
be have on a spectrum of severity. So you might just have a
exactly,
few things, whereas someone might be
exactly.
more severe.
Right. Or we both might have POTS, but your POTS may be so severe, like you're completely in bed all the time, and mine, I can function. So
Right.
to say that it, because all of this doesn't fit neatly in a box and it doesn't present itself in the same way, I think that that's why it's important to start with friends and family and explaining to them as best you can. I mean, we get it. Like, there are a lot of people that just don't want to hear it. And if you are a part of that kind of family, lean into your Spoonie community, because,
Right.
it's tough. But if you have friends and family that are willing to listen, sharing with them and teaching them and educating them is the best way that we can start this movement moving forward, to really at least have a conversation. Because I think friends and family love you, and even though all of them give unsolicited advice,
Yeah. But
it
I've got to
comes from a
say,
place.
but I got to interrupt you for a second because, um, one really important point for me is that, did you freeze? Okay, I'm going to keep talking. Hopefully it's still recording, but you froze for a second. So
Are you there?
anyway, there you are. Okay, I'm going to just keep talking. So
Technical difficulties.
yeah. What I was trying to say was, what makes it difficult is a lot of times when people are complaining about their issues, and keyword I said complaining,
Right.
um, people look at that as a negative thing, like
Right.
that you're being negative and all you do is complain. And that's really like the best thing you can do for someone you care about is just listen. And maybe it's
Absolutely.
hard to hear someone not feeling well all the time, or being down about things, or complaining, or however you want to call that. But
Right.
it's so important to feel like we can talk about it, because
Right.
in the past I've been told I was a hypochondriac. I've been told, that all I do is complain and I'm always negative, and
You're so sickly.
I'm just trying
It's
to
my
talk
favorite.
about my day. And if we can't
Right.
open up about the reality and that like we're having a hard day, that's just going to make at least our mental health just suffer, because we're going to feel like we have no one to talk to. And if you are someone
Absolutely.
who's in that position, like Amber was saying, find your internet community, like the Spoonie
Right.
community online. It's the best thing you can do is find support. A lot of times my friends love them to death, but my best friends, the people that I feel like I have the most precious friendships with, are people who, just get it, who understand and
Right.
listen. And those are the people that I feel like I really have a connection to, because it's like
Right.
otherwise in the past I've said, oh my gosh, this is scaring me, or I'm nervous about this, and it's just like, oh, so I had a salad for lunch,
Yeah.
and so
Right.
if you can't find that in your friends, don't resent them for it. Just know that like maybe not all people know how to handle that, and be patient with them, and find your community of
Absolutely.
people who do.
Absolutely.
Because
The
you're
only
also going to learn, sorry,
No, you're good.
you're also going to learn so much more from your community than you are your
Mhm.
doctors, and medical professionals. When I had open heart surgery, my doctor was like, okay, I'll see you July 9th,
Mhm.
and I was like, I think it's heartvalvejournals.com, and created an account there, and met all those people. And I learned so much from that.
Yeah.
And I'm
Yeah.
forever grateful from the things I've learned from my community.
Absolutely. I think shared knowledge, and that kind of thing, that kind of environment, because no one else, I love our doctors and they're brilliant, and we have a lot of great ones, but we also have some that aren't necessarily as intuitive. And when you have someone that goes, oh, hey, you too, like, you're not by yourself, like,
Right.
like, it feels good, because then you're like, I'm not crazy, I'm not losing my mind, I'm not, the exception, like, there's someone else that's dealing with this too, and at least I'm not by myself. Like,
Right.
even if there's one person that understands what I'm going through, that knows, like, absolutely, like, it takes a lot of energy to clean the house, and the house is a mess, and that's okay. Okay, like, that's good.
Exactly. Yeah, and talking about it helps other people to not feel alone. And
Yeah.
it also one day might click for somebody who thought, what they were dealing with was normal, and then they realize it might not be normal, and then maybe they
Right.
can, get
Ask
proper
their
care for
doctor.
themselves.
Exactly. Because a lot of times it's just that spark that goes, oh, wait, so that's not, something I should be feeling or something I should be experiencing. Let me ask. And then
Right.
you're armed with the proper, like, okay, so I'm feeling this way. I've been feeling this way. Is it normal? What should I do? I think that
Exactly.
conversation is super important too.
Perfect. Well,
For
I always
sure.
love our conversations.
Yay.
And so we have on our Instagram, we have all the links, which is at the Invisible Diaries. You'll see a link to, we have a website now that's almost official. It's there, but we gotta finish it.
Yeah, guys,
We
bear
have,
bear with us
yeah,
because we're in the baby stages. We know like it's not super produced right now. We know, but we're so passionate about this. We just wanted to get started and just start sharing. And so
absolutely.
you're on the journey with us. Like it's gonna evolve, it's gonna grow, and we're excited if you've, subscribed and if you've tuned in. Like we're super excited to have you here and we're super grateful. But know it's a journey.
Exactly. Yeah, and you can watch this on YouTube, or you can listen to it on iTunes, or we have one for Android as well. We have a Facebook, Instagram, all that good stuff. So
Yeah, reach out, say
we're
hey.
here.
We like saying hi.
Exactly. All right.
All
Well,
right. See you
bye.
guys next time. Yeah.